I think we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to join us this morning. Today, we're going to be talking about content strategy and SEO with HubSpot, which I'm very excited about. Before we do that, I just want to take a quick moment to introduce myself for those of you who haven't met me. I'm Amanda Gilbert, the Communications Coordinator with Queen's Partnerships and Innovation. We host a number of workshops and accelerator programs with the support of the Government of Canada through the Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario. If you also want to take a moment to put in the chat where you're from and what your business is, that would be great. And while we're doing that, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that Queen's University is situated on the traditional Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee territory. We are grateful to be able to live and learn on these lands today. So as you're putting your location in the chat, and if you're outside of Kingston region, and you know the traditional lands that you're situated on, please feel free to add that into the chat as well. All right, so I will jump right into handing the reins over to Mina, who is joining us from HubSpot to start us off today. I always find the HubSpot workshops really insightful and engaging, so I'm looking forward to learning alongside everyone else.
So let's do a quick introduction. I know Amanda asked you guys to do a little bit of note on your business, but I also want to know about your startup as well. So if you haven't done that, let's give it a moment. And I'm going to cover the people who have gone through, have already dropped it in the chat. So Lisa, I own House of Three in Inverry, all right, just north of Kingston. Love it. Krista, I'm the communications coordinator with PrevNet at Queen's University. Awesome. Anybody else wants to share? We have a quiet audience today. All right. I'll ask another question then. Tell me if your startup is a B2B or a B2C or e-commerce. All three. Okay, perfect. Anybody else wants to share? Okay, let's move on to the next question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how familiar are you with SEOs? And 1 means that you don't know anything, and 10 means that you're an expert and you probably know more about SEOs than I do. All right, I know squat, okay. 5, okay. All right, and my last question, I know we have a shy audience, but I still want to try to see if I can break the ice a little. Last question, do you have any SEO strategies for yourself and for your business and startup? All right, it's okay. I'll break the ice eventually, but let's get through with the presentation. So as you guys may know, my name is Mina and I'm part of HubSpot's partnerships team. And I was essentially hired last year to manage the Canadian portfolio and work with our partners like Amanda and Queen's University locally. I am a U of T engineering graduate and I used to work in fintech before joining HubSpot. So very much so new to the CRM world myself, but I've been doing sales and marketing for quite a bit now. So on the agenda today, we're going to cover 3 main things. The first thing I want to talk about is the evolution of SEOs, and it really goes back to the story of Google and what happened in 2013. So we're going to cover that. And then I'm going to talk about something called a topic cluster strategy, which we actually use internally. And then we'll go over the 3-step process to creating topic clusters and a little bit of, I'll show you the tools that we use internally, and I'll cover some use cases and examples along the way, just so I can kind of make it more concrete for you guys. Again, while I go through the presentation, please interrupt me, unmute yourselves, don't shy away. I really want to make sure that you guys get the most out of this session. All right, so what is an SEO? I've seen a lot of complicated explanations of SEOs on the internet, and I think it's important to just give a simple one. Stands for search engine optimization, and it's basically the process of optimizing your website with the goal of improving your rankings in the search results and getting more organic traffic or non-paid traffic. Essentially, you just want to land on the first page of Google, and you want to be easily findable. When we talk about SEOs, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Honestly, we're just mostly talking about Google, in some cases Spotify and YouTube if it makes sense for your business, but it's really about Google. And we just want to make sure that we're on the first page of the Google search results. We don't want to be on the second page. So how do we rank in Google? When somebody searches for our product on Google, how do we show up in search results so that they can find us? How we do that today is heavily influenced by Google Hummingbird. So basically in 2013, Google rolled out the Hummingbird algorithm update. And it was the first time Google had dramatically changed its algorithm. You know, they were not making updates and small changes to the program anymore. They were basically replacing an old car engine with a new one. You know, it wasn't like a paint job or pumping a deflated tire. It was a very, very huge project and change that happened. But why was this whole thing so significant to us? Hummingbird had essentially a huge impact on anyone that was focused on producing content and trying to get it to rank on Google search results. You know, Google was essentially moving from keywords to topics. So it was the first attempt to move towards that human-centered and conversational type of search engine. So in the past, for example, people used to process, Google used to, process each individual word in the query separately and look for pages that had the closest phrasing to that. So if you searched, for example, customer acquisition cost formula, so 4 heavy words, what Google did is that it would look for customer acquisition cost and formula individually instead of an entire string. But then after Hummingbird, it started using natural language processing to look at the entire string and factoring things like synonyms as well. So Google now is factoring in reasons behind your query as well as its context. So if you're searching weather, you're probably not looking for an explanation of what weather is. The chances are you know the definition of that. You're probably looking for a weather forecast locally where you are, and Google can show you that. This change basically laid out the groundwork for voice search as well. Now people are like posing questions to Google that they are the way that they are talking to their friends, coworkers, and people around them. So they're having a conversation with Google actually. And you also have Google looking at the intention and customizing those answers for you. So it's a lot easier to get the information you need. This change also changed the game in the SEO. You know, back then people were like winning the SEO with keywords, but then it just became about topics. And using the right terms was starting to become less and less feasible option in the SEO game. Since 2013, a lot more things happened. We've had more updates with all sorts of different things, but all of it was with the intention of moving towards natural language processing. So Hummingbird was just the beginning of that. And as you can see over the years, Google made a lot of changes to their search engine, and it became increasingly sophisticated. And this was something that was very unique. And this is, you know, why they're so good at what they do. They're not just looking at the word that you're searching anymore. They really want to know the intention behind why you search those keywords specifically. These are some old examples, but remember, more than half of the search results are not clicked on, and people are not even bothered to go to the second page of the search results. So as you can see, Google made a lot of changes to their search engine, and it's becoming a lot more sophisticated. So here you can see things like featured snippets, and people also ask boxes, instant answers, image carousels, suggested next searches. You know, there's calculators that they show. This is an example of a cooking recipe. It's so sophisticated. It can also show you different versions of it. So a classic recipe, a homemade version, and a low-carb one for cheesecake brownies. So all of these things are happening in Google. It's becoming really interesting, and, you know, users are really loving it. But in 2018, HubSpot was actually checking all these changes, and they realized that they're really, really suffering with their SEOs. And they were starting to get nervous, and it was just becoming really, really hard for them to show up on the top. And the marketing team was basically in the panic mode, and they're like, well, what does this all mean for our business? What do we do? This is really scary. How do we make these changes? And they go through this discovery phase of understanding how search works for HubSpot and what does that mean for them. And they're like, okay, we need to make some changes. Their business model was, HubSpot's business model is essentially based on inbound leads. So lead generation is really important for them. Blogs are a huge part of their business. So that's also really important for them. So losing at the SEO game is not an option for HubSpot. We're not a type of company who does mass marketing like Coca-Cola or Nike or Dove. So this change with Hummingbird was something that they really had to tailor towards and change the way that they do their SEOs. We knew that blog post content was one of the biggest fuel engines for the sales. So we knew at least half of the customers were looking at about 5 to 6 blog posts before coming to us to make a purchase of our products. So it's basically our main driver for business growth. We also knew that, again, we had to do something about this. So we start to look at our systems in the back end, how it was, and how this Google change was impacting us. And this is basically how it looked. We have the master URL, which is www.hubspot.com at the top. And that is meant to have the main authority in the eyes of Google. And it's essentially the parent URL. And then every page has to roll up to this URL. So it's given the most weight in the search. And then we have the subdirectory, which is our blog, which is blog.hubspot.com. And this becomes the child of the main site. So it essentially has less authority than www. But more than an individual blog post. So all of our blog content then was more or less equal in the eyes of Google, which worked when there was a discrete list of keywords that we needed to rank for, but it became a lot more problematic when Google was prioritizing topics over keywords. Our posts started to compete with each other, and even though they were targeting different keywords, they were kind of cannibalizing each other in terms of topic. So it was becoming a huge problem. Let's go over an example here. So we have about 15,000 pieces of content, and they were basically, again, competing against each other. So when that happens, you're basically hurting your own SEOs because Google can't really differentiate which topic is more important than the other. So you're just basically hurting yourself. What's here is that Google doesn't really have a way to say, certain blog posts is more important than others. That's why building authority on topics is really important. So let's take a look at the example here. On the left-hand side, you have how to create a content marketing strategy for virtual reality. And then on the right-hand side, you have content marketing strategy, a comprehensive guide for modern marketers. So this would have worked prior to 2013, because the key thing here is that they just want to win the SEO game with keywords. So it's really important to have their titles as wordy as possible, use as many fancy keywords as possible to address content marketing strategy. But if you do that today, this is not going to work because Google's not going to be able to tell which article is more important. And when you do that, you're going to hurt yourself. And back then, this is how HubSpot was doing its own marketing strategy. So basically, this is the reason why we were losing at the SEO game in 2018. Does it make sense so far? Yes, no, maybe. All right. So what happened was that we had to restructure all of our content, and this is how the pillar strategy came about. So if you looked at this slide, you see all of these blog posts that was just basically put out there with the intention of boosting HubSpot.com. But today, that's not really the case anymore. So they're like reorganized. And then our entire site in the back end, this is how it looks like. So topic clusters, what that means is that they're very broad topics, and we have hundreds of them. So it would be something like e-commerce, advertising, leadership, blockchain. They're broad. You can talk about them. You can write tons of different subtopics, blogs, and videos about them. And then each cluster is going to represent a subject that we want to be recognized as an expert in. So first by the search engine, and then second by everyone that's using the search engine. And then this way, we're signaling to Google, hey, for each of these topics, I'm providing the most comprehensive content. And all of these satellites are basically my subtopics that are helping build authority. So put me on the top when people search for these topics. And I'll show you guys examples of how this actually works. And this is how we organize each topic. So we have the pillar content at the center in the middle, and we're using subtopics as our satellites to link to the main pillar. So we're also using backlinks heavily. So what's a backlink? It's basically a hyperlink. So if every time someone shares your content on the internet or gives you like a hyperlink on a blog post or a YouTube video that you created, that's basically a vote for you in the eyes of Google. So the more people share your content or give you backlinks, the more in your favor. And if you have a blog post on your website, you can give yourself those hyperlinks, but you just have to make sure that you're organized about it. So with that being said, if you go on our blogs, you're going to see this never-ending loops of backlinks, and all of that, it's with the intention of leading you to certain pages. Because in the eyes of Google, we're suddenly important when we do that. We're giving ourselves boost in the SEO game. So if you go on our blogs, there's this one-way street. So these subtopics, these like blogs that we have, they're intended to lead you somewhere. So they would either lead you to a broader page, like a comprehensive guide or something, and then from that it leads you to the pricing page. So the main goal here is to use the blogs, use your hyperlinks and backlinks to lead people to the pricing page down the road. So that way you're giving yourself the SEO boost and the SEO vote, and you're also leading people towards a purchasing decision. And that's why using backlinks is really important. So the way we do it is that at the center, again, we have the main topic that we want to be recognized as an expert for our business. And then we create the subtopics that leads to that main topic that we want to be known for. If you execute this right, you should get something like this. If you get this really, really right, then you get something like inbound says Chile. So like if you look at this example, everything here on the first page, it's either by HubSpot or somebody wrote it for HubSpot. So it was like a third party that was boosting HubSpot. It's a little bit different now. I think if you search this, you're not going to get the same results, but this is a really good example of how SEOs actually work if you get it and execute it right. This would be an example of a pillar page for e-commerce. So as you can see, it's using something like Ultimate Guide. So it's supposed to be a comprehensive overview. Of course, e-commerce is an insanely complex topic, but this is supposed to be, kind of like a cheat sheet. It's supposed to be broad, and it's supposed to be like an ultimate guide to something really comprehensive. And then if you go on a blog post like this would be leading you to the pricing page at some point, So this would be something like a core topic cluster page. And then we have our satellite articles that I've been talking about. So these two posts are meant to boost our e-commerce page. So let's take a look at it. On the left-hand side, we have fixed cost, what it is and how to calculate it. On the right-hand side, we have the inventory management guide for e-commerce. So two things here. The first thing is that you can see that it's not really focusing on keywords anymore. It's really focusing on a topic. So it's not as wordy. It's not as, kind of like kind of keyword focused. It's more topic focused. And then they're both standalone topics. So they're both about e-commerce, but neither of them are cannibalizing each other. So now Google can recognize that they're both related to e-commerce, but which one is more important than the other one? It can also recognize that as well. So with that change that happened, and obviously we were losing at the SEO game, we had to make the change. So we manually reorganized all of the blog posts that we have into topic clusters and figuring out which belonged where, and we had to tag them in the back end. And it was just a lot of, honestly, like stressful, like blood, sweat, tears, stressful times. You go and hang out with the marketing team, they're all like crying, they're having like nervous breakdowns in the hallway. And it was just a lot of stuff to go through. 15,000 blog posts is no joke. But luckily for you guys, you're going to have a framework and you're going to see how we did it in the back end, so you don't have to go through this type of pain. So how do we actually do this? We use a simple framework. There's a 3-step process to creating topic clusters. Step 1 is identify the keywords that you want product pages to rank for, and this is really important. Step 2 is map those product pages to topic clusters. And then step 3 is to figure out which keywords your blog posts will target. And then once you have these 3 figured out, then you should have a content strategy for yourself. Remember, topic cluster is one pillar page that you want to be known for as an expert. So just how big should a topic cluster be? Every topic cluster should have one pillar page and then maybe at least 3 blog posts. I would aim for 6+ if I can. But since the head keyword for a topic cluster is typically very broad, so think of it as like, you know, a word like advertising, it should be able to support several more specific niche blog posts. So for advertising, you should be able to write about maybe online advertising strategy, best digital ads, how to run an ad campaign, and things like that. So I know I've been emphasizing on building topic authority a lot, but I also want to take a step back and discuss keywords as well. So before you start with topics, make sure you know your product keywords. And this is really important because you don't want to hurt your product pages or pricing pages. So the first layer is to figure out your product keywords. And those keywords are the keywords that you don't want to touch when you do your blogs and YouTube videos. So we start with these pages for 2 reasons. The first reason was that HubSpot actually ran into issues when the blog pages were ranking for pages that we wanted our product pages to rank for. An example would be that something called a blog post like Guide to Selecting a CRM, that post ended up ranking higher than our actual product page. And we don't want that. We want the product page to always be at the top, and then the blog page would be like a secondary thing. So it's really important to know your product keywords before you get into blogging. And the second reason for it is that product keywords are so closely related to your customer that beginning with those are going to help you identify the clusters that you want to be known for, the topics that you want to be experts in. So that's going to help you figure out the topics as well. In other words, we really want to make sure that we're not cannibalizing our own content and we're not hurting our own page rankings on Google search results. So ultimately, we want to attract the right leads and we want them to buy our products. One other thing I really want to mention with keywords is that we use marketing funnels. So our keywords are broken down into buckets of attract, engage, and delight. So if we're using a certain keyword or we're using, we're putting out a blog post out there or a video out there, if we really take into consideration from a marketing angle, are we trying to attract these people? Are we trying to engage them? So are they like at the middle of the marketing funnel? Or are we trying to delight them? So they're basically an existing customer and we just want to make them happy. For example, we have content that are meant for people who are just exploring our CRM. We have content for people who are serious about making a purchase, and they're basically just considering different brands or products. And then we have content for people who are, an existing customer, they probably need help with the product. So I'm just showing you guys the tip of the iceberg here, but a few examples that would be exclusive to HubSpot. These are our product pages, and these are knowledge-based pages as well. So things like knowledge base, email tracking, and calls to action. These keywords, we are very, very careful when it comes to using them in our blogs because these are our product pages and we tend to avoid them. So we tend to build our topics that would lead to these pages, but we don't want to specifically use these keywords when we do our blogs because we don't want to compete against these pages essentially. So once you define your product keywords, then you can move on to topic clusters. So your product page will be about the how, and then your blog is more about when, where, who, what, and why, and so on. So the bottom line is that every topic cluster that you create, every topic cluster that you want to be known as an expert in, it has to lead to at least one of your product pages. So think of this as a one-way street. Your blog is going to lead you to the product page and then from that to your pricing page, but you should never really do the reverse because if you do that, you'll hurt your SEO. A little bit of repetition here just because it's a bit of a complicated topic, but again, your pillar page, remember, that's the page that's going to be at the center of the topic cluster and it's going to serve as a high-level overview. So it should be targeting separate keywords from your product page. We have to be careful with that. And then the product pages are usually pretty concrete. So SEO tool would be one. Freeform builder software, live chat solution. So these would be product pages. And then pillar pages would be a little bit more abstract. So it would be something like SEO strategy, how to create a survey, setting up your first live chat program, and so on. So there's really, really separate keywords. And again, they can't compete against each other. We talked about a marketing funnel. So if you like the marketing funnel, this would how the SEO world would look like if you choose to do the blogging. So we start at the bottom in this case, so bottom-up approach. First question is, what is my product? In this case, we're looking at SEO. So my product is SEO and content strategy software. And then I already know that I don't want to compete with that, so I don't want to write about that. So I go one level up and I create like a pillar page. And that's the topic that I want to be known as an expert for. So in this case, I would create something like the ultimate guide to SEO in 2018, a little bit outdated, but the strategy still works. And then we take it one level up and one level up. And then when you get to the top, it's what is SEO? But that what is SEO blog post, every single one of them, so the 3 that you see, they're going to have to lead you to the pillar page. And then from the pillar page, it's going to have to lead you to the product page. So that's how it's going to look like from a marketing funnel view. Does this make sense? Yeah. All right. So this would be a different example, and this is basically the topic cluster view that we have. So for this one, we want to be known as entrepreneurship, which is basically the topic that we want to be known as experts for. So entrepreneurship, again, it's a very broad topic. It's the topic for HubSpot for Starters program that I work at. And in this case, we put this as our core content. We write about 5 to 6 subtopics that are interconnected. And then these subtopics, and again, they're structured in a way that they are not fighting for themselves, and they are now a cluster that drives for the concept of entrepreneurship. So let's take a look at the example and see how it's working out. Entrepreneurship at the center, very broad. Then you have blog posts that is discussing like silent partner, how to start a business, business incubator, equity financing. So again, every single one of these topics that you see here, they are related to the topic of entrepreneurship. They are standalone topics. They are very niche, but every single one of them is driving for the concept of entrepreneurship. Every single one of these blog posts will lead you to the entrepreneurship blog post. And then from that, we go to the product page or the pricing page based on your, depending on your business. Let's take a look at another example here. This is one of our most successful topic clusters that we have. This one is about Instagram marketing, and then the subtopics are on things like hacks, how-to, stories, buying followers and so on. And we've had about 500,000 organic users on this single cluster with over 5,000 backlinks. So people are basically just giving us a vote on these cluster that we have. And all of it just came from a simple observation of reorganizing our content and focusing on topics rather than keywords. I'll pause here for a moment just so you guys can kind of absorb this example and understand how it's actually working. Any questions so far? Because we're more than halfway through. All right, let's move on. This is a chart that you can use for the process of mapping your product pages to pillar pages, and it's a really good way to make sure that your product and pillar pages are talking about different things. So map that out for yourself. It's a little bit of art and crafts. So you have a product, and then now you want to create your pillar. What would that pillar page be for you? And similar to the last slide, say we have SEO software as our product, then SEO strategy would be a pillar page. I think we have a question in the chat. Can the pillar page be a blog post, or does it need to be a landing or product page? No, pillar page can be a blog post. So in the front end, when people are like reading your blog post, they're not going to know, right? They're not going to see how you're structured. What matters is how it looks in the back end. So once you have your pillar page figured out, the way that you write your blog post is that your pillar page will lead you to the product page, but then your pillar page is not going to lead you to those niche blog posts that you created. But it's only going to affect you in the back end and how you choose to organize your content. The audience they're not going to know. So yes, it can be a blog post. So remember, the pillar page is essentially targeting the highest volume, most universal keyword on a topic, and then each blog post is going to address the different subtopics. So we're looking at about 1 to 3 related keywords for a certain topic that we choose to be experts for. And the goal here is to identify what your satellite articles are going to talk about. What longer tail keywords are going to address. And it's a little bit of art. We're not going to target 19 keywords just to make sure that we cover everything here. We really want to make sure that we're doing the right way. And then once you map it out, it's going to have to like make sense for you. I don't have a set formula for that. It's just that you're going to have to go through the exercise and map it out and make sure it looks good and make sure it makes sense. But there's no science to it for this particular part of the exercise. Let's take a look at another example. So say our pillar page would be content marketing. So again, a very broad topic, and we can write all sorts of different things about it. So here's how the satellite blog post might cover for us. Content marketing strategy would be one, brainstorming techniques, blogging mistakes, buyer personas, writing skills, and writing productivity. So the satellite blogs are basically signaling to Google search engine that we are essentially experts on content marketing, and we're trying to build authority, and please put us on the top. So if you execute this right, you're going to be in a really good shape with your SEO game. So how do we know if our content should be a pillar page or a blog post? And it's a really great question, and probably sometimes a hard decision. It can be hard to determine what merits an entire cluster versus, a comprehensive blog post or a niche blog post. So for example, say you're debating between creating a cluster for trade shows or simply including a blog post on trade shows in your events marketing cluster. We use a simple formula for this. You can tailor this for your business, but let's go over this and see what we're looking at. So we're basically looking at 4 different questions. MSV, by the way, stands for monthly search volume. And then the first question is the monthly search volume for the head search term equal or greater than 50,000? So are we getting 50,000 traffic there? If you get yes, then that's a plus point for you. So you can change the 15,000 number for yourself, but that's what we're looking at. Then we move on to the next one. Can I identify 5+ potential cluster blog posts? And then each of them, can they target 2,000+ monthly search results? If yes, then give yourself 2 points. Next question, does this align with one or more of our products? If yes, then give yourself another point. And is this an emerging topic? In other words, you don't have to have a lot of traffic for that topic today, but is this something that's going to get a lot of traffic in the future? So NFT would be an example of that. People who wrote about it, NFT's been around for over a decade now, but people who wrote about it 5-6 years ago, when NFTs became a hot topic, they were winning in that SEO game big time because they were there early. They didn't have a lot of traffic, but they spent a lot of time building their SEOs until it was actually ready to take off. So take a look at that. And once you answer these questions for yourself, it's going to help you figure out whether that specific keyword should be a topic for you that you want to build authority on, or it should be just a blog post that's complementing the topic that you're trying to build authority on. So this is going to help you figure that out. So now that we know how to choose a topic cluster, how do we figure out the keywords? We start with doing some research and doing homework. I'm going to drop some recommended tools that we use internally. This is an example for content marketing, and it shows the value of each keyword in terms of search. So content marketing strategy example, this is going to have the highest value. And then strategy template also has really good value, but on the other hand, content strategy plan, it's not a very valuable keyword. Strategy PDF, it's not that exciting. Strategy checklist, that's not too bad. So we look at this to see the value of it. And then once we see the value of that, we can kind of figure out, okay, this is what we want to write about. So for content strategy, I'm probably not going to write about content strategy plan because people are not searching for it. I don't get a lot of monthly search volume. But maybe strategy example, then that's probably something I want to write about because it has more value. So feel free to check these tools out so then you can kind of see what makes sense for your business. People also search for, so I know you guys have seen that on Google. So Amazon, for example, it gives people also shop for, and then Google gives you people also search for suggestions. So that's AI, but it's also another great tool to figure out what is relevant for you. It can help you figure out what niche topic you may want to write about. It's not going to show you the metrics of what's more popular, but it kind of gives you an idea of what people are asking when they're kind of searching for these keywords. There are additional paid features for it, but to be honest with you, I don't think you need that. I think the free version is more than enough. All right, we have a question. Is that the price they pay for per click? Yes, I think so. I'm gonna have to double check that, but I think so. All right. Let's move on to the next part. The second strategy is to identify the highest traffic. So this is my teammate's favorite thing. Especially when he's exploring a super new space, but basically we're doing market research to figure out what other people are doing. And I also want to know who my competitors are for my content. So for example, HubSpot wants to write about e-commerce. We want to know who else is writing about the same topic. So I can see some repetitive names here like Shopify, Oberlo, and BigCommerce. So I know that they are my competitors when it comes to this specific topic that I want to build authority on. Keep in mind, these companies are not HubSpot competitors in terms of our product, but they are competing with us when it comes to our content. So we have two different sets of competitors, a product competitor, which would be Salesforce, and then a content competitor, which is in this case, Shopify. As you work through your SEO strategies, really keep that in mind. So don't go and look at your regular competition for your product. Every single time, try to look at it with a fresh set of eyes and say, okay, this is where my competition is in terms of this specific topic, and this is what they're writing about, and this is what they're doing, and I should pay attention to that. Honestly, sometimes your competition could be an Instagram influencer. You never know. But in this case, for this specific topic of e-commerce, HubSpot would be more worried about Shopify than Salesforce. For us, depending on the term that we're searching for, usually we're competing against Buffer, Sprout Social, WordStream, Canva, and so on. Again, it's not really good practice. It's really tempting that we go and like search these people and say, okay, what are they writing about? But it's not really good practice. So again, every single time that you want to build authority for a topic, find your set of new competitors for that specific topic, and don't worry about your product competition. Some additional things I want to cover on these tools. This is Ahrefs content gap analysis. It's a really favorite tool here. So you plug in your content competitors as well as your own domain, and then you click show keywords, and then you get an instant list of relevant keywords that your competitors are ranking for, that you're not ranking for, essentially. So it's going to show you that. So right now we're searching for, in this example, we have BigCommerce, Shopify, and Oberlo, and then we can see what are they ranking for against us. So this is really helpful for analysis purposes. And then SEMrush also has a similar tool for keyword gap. So again, I'm not trying to see my competitors. I'm not trying to see my competitors for product. I'm trying to see my competitors for content. So what are these people ranking for that I'm not ranking for? Because I really want to play catch up and I really want to beat them in this game and be ahead of them. I also want to know how hard it is to rank for those keywords. So is this even worth my time? Sometimes it's not really worth the effort. Sometimes it is. So traffic share is another favorite feature within Ahrefs. So once you've entered a keyword, clicking traffic share by domain, it's going to show you who's getting the most traffic for that head keyword that you're interested in. So the point is to gather information from your competition and figure out where they rank and how much authority they have. So if they have too much authority and the odds are against you, sometimes it's not really worth it. But if they're doing like mediocre, then yeah, for sure, step in and try to build your authority within that. So in this case, keyword difficulty for e-commerce, 42, that's not too bad. We have a chance. Here's an example of the top domains ranking for e-commerce. In this example, Oberlo is owning it with 22% share. Wikipedia has 19% share. And we all know Wikipedia is not an e-commerce website, but our e-commerce topic cluster is competing against Wikipedia. Same thing with other websites that you can see, like Forbes, not an e-commerce, CNBC, India Times, none of them are e-commerce, but they all have a share in the SEO game when it comes to the topic of e-commerce. So after you identify several longer tail keywords, which will become the focus of your cluster post, you should organize your search into a content report. So at HubSpot, we call this Search Insight Report. It maps out each pillar page and cluster post title, URL, headers, and feature snippets, and anything else you want to include to make sure that your content is, competitive for SERPs on the SERPs. So SERP will be multimedia assets or anything that you want to beat. SERP stands for Search Engine Results Page, by the way. This format also makes it easier to see which posts you need to link together and to the pillar page that you have. And it also makes it easier to set up your reporting. Once you go through all of your topic clusters, you also want to make sure that you're tracking your results. I'm dropping a few ideas here that you can use as metrics to follow and track. This is going to help you figure out whether you have a good model or not. So how are you ranking? Are you getting traffic? Are you getting backlinks? Backlinks are a huge thing in the SEO world. So you want to definitely track that, and you want to see who's giving you backlinks. Are you getting notice? Do you need to change anything for yourself? Is this working? And are people who are getting to your content, are you actually converting them? That's also another thing that you want to check out. So against your traffic that you're getting for these blog posts and SEOs that you have, and can you track whether the leads are, where they're coming from and how you're converting them? Can you track all these things through your SEO plans? I could talk about SEOs for another 2-3 hours, but I think this is a really good place to stop. There's a discussion on fundamentals. You can get into backlinks a little bit more, building authority, which we didn't really cover that too much. Ranking factors are really important. So you really need technical knowledge. SEO is a lot more complicated than this. The technical backends are not that simple, but understanding it from a marketing angle, it's going to help you figure out at least a high level plan for yourself and how you want to tackle the SEO for yourself. If there are any questions or comments or discussion points, I think this is a really good place to stop. And also some additional content that you guys want to check out after this. All right, no worries. I think this topic is really complicated. So like, I'm not expecting anyone to like be an expert in it, but at least it just kind of gives you an idea that how Google is working, how to tackle it. Do you guys want me to talk about backlinks a little bit? Or does it make sense? That would be amazing. Okay, so let's talk about, I'm going to pull a different presentation for this. So let's talk about backlinks. So I talk about backlinks when I cover like the fundamentals of inbound marketing. But let's go over this one really quickly. So with backlinks, this is, if you look at this graph, a lot of the new startups, a lot of the new businesses, they're kind of given this advice where they have to go out there and they're recommended to, put out as much as blog post content out there as possible, so then they can kind of win at the SEO game. So people create literally 50 blog posts, they put it on their website, and then they just kind of wait and nothing happens. And what they do instead is that they go and create more content. You don't really need to do that. That's a really bad advice. What you really need to do, and honestly, you only need one topic cluster that you want to be an expert for when you start, and maybe 5 blog posts max, but you really want something that's really high quality that can stand the test of time. And once you create that, what you want to do is that you want people to share your content for you. So you want, if you have friends in the industry, you want them to write their blog post and then kind of give you a hyperlink and mention that you have this blog post. If you choose to have your blog on LinkedIn, people get an automatic email that you created a blog post. And that also shows in Google search results if it's a public blog post. So that's going to help you out with your SEO game and building your authority. So this is really important. With backlinks, get people to share your content as much as possible through the use of hyperlinks and just kind of giving you a shout out for it. And that's how it essentially works. It's very simple, but it does take a lot of effort because it's, it really comes down to people kind of knowing you and knowing your content. Networking is also going to help you out. So really, in this case, it's about quality over quantity. There's a couple of things I want to cover. There's this website. This one also shows you, this is not going to show you any metrics. So it's not going to show you the value of the keywords that you're looking at. So in this case, I was searching for nature therapy as an example, but it can kind of give you a couple of ideas of what types of blog posts you can create and how to organize your topic clusters. But you still have to figure out whether there's value to it or not. So unfortunately, there's that limitation around metrics with it, but it's not a bad tool to check out. I want to show you guys a bad example of what not to do when you do your blog post. This is one of the startups I worked with. And this is their blogs. They get traffic, but their leads are not being converted. And let's take a look at why. So if you look at this, just scrolling through it, it's just text. There are no hyperlinks, there are no backlinks, there are no CTAs. So when you put this out there, you want to make sure that you have your hyperlinks and backlinks there. So think of it this way. If this is a blog post, this should lead you somewhere at some point. So if you want to capture their email address, create a template and put it out there. If you want to lead them to their pricing page, put it out there. You see the pricing page is on the top here. There's nothing here that recommends their tools and say, hey, let's check out the product page that we have. So basically what happened in their case is that people are getting to their website, they're checking out the blog posts, but then they're basically just moving on. They're not doing anything else about it. And it also doesn't really help them from an SEO perspective because they're not really helping themselves. Nobody's giving them any shout outs and no one's really discovering them just because they're not really honing in on sharing and using CTAs and backlinks. So hopefully this makes sense. Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. Any questions? We have about 7 minutes left. What was the name of the previous website? Can you? Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I'll drop it in the chat. By the way, if you guys want to have a chat with me, feel free to add me on LinkedIn and send me a message. And I'm happy to talk about sales and marketing after work. So I'm always looking for network myself. All right. If there are no any questions, Amanda, should be close it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you so much for presenting this today, Mina. I really appreciate it. And I hope that everybody had some really great takeaways from it. I know I also made notes for myself, so I found it really helpful.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Amanda, if you don't mind staying after the call for a few minutes, that would be amazing.
Sure.
All right. Oh, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Sarah.
Have a good day, everyone.